this has been probably, I'm 48, this is the saddest month of my 48 years in our state. It is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because I don't think that most of the people in our state feel like they're listened to by anyone in Madison. I don't feel like I'm represented. Access is cut off. People are called thugs. I mean, my Aunt Barbara's down there. She's a retired special ed teacher from up north. My Aunt Barbara's a chubby little Swede. She's not a thug. You know, things like that. And that's the image that's perpetuated. And it's so sad to me that our state has this wedge down the middle. What can you do to fix that? What can you do to help not perpetuate that image of people who are against this budget repair bill being, you know, the scum of society? If we don't agree with the governor, who you can't get a hold of anyhow, because they're not going to listen.
Right.
How do we fix that? How do we fix our state? The tax breaks in January that the governor gave to corporations have anything to do with the deficit we have now?
We're also having businesses look at Wisconsin and say, come here, we've got great things going for you, and we want you to start up shop right here.
Except for the schools and the environment, and what else?
Listen, this is, I know, I get it.
And our environment and our power plants being sold off with no bid. And you voted for that. You voted for that.
Look at what K-12 education, I am fearful that privatization is the next step. I am fearful that being a public school teacher is going to be a job that people aren't going to aspire to anymore. I'm afraid.
Wherever I am in 5 years, wherever it is, I'll be someplace, I hope.
Okay, and I have one quick question, I promise.
Tim, you're really patient.
He's
a good guy.
When you talk about getting our fiscal house in order, I'm really curious, and so are, I'm sure, everybody in the audience. What does the governor travel on, and who's paying for that when he's flying?
Well, you know who pays for it. Me and you, everybody else. It's taxpayers. And you know, quite frankly, governors in the past have all done that. So I think it's unfair to...
I guess I would just say, if it is such a emergency situation that we are in, fiscally bankrupt or whatever we keep hearing, Wisconsin is broke, then that would be the first thing I, as a governor, and I, as a legislator of that party, would demand or ask my governor to stay home instead of doing that. I would think that would be a message. I mean, I keep hearing about shared sacrifice. Where is the shared sacrifice in this? It seems to many of us, it's the middle class, yet there are no, that you're focusing on making cuts on. There are no positions out there, proposals out there on, like Minnesota, who you talked about, where the governor is talking about a number of things. Homes that valued over $1 million, surcharges, incomes of $1 million, surcharges, things like that, that there's no shared sacrifice in this state. And I would think that if some of these cuts people might be more willing to look at them if they felt that there was some shared sacrifice. In Minnesota, for heaven's sake, they're talking about giving schools more money because they see the importance of schools and bringing new jobs and new businesses, those types of things to the state. We're doing completely the opposite.
You can't help but, I guess, understand if I might be a little cynical. And, you know, I worry about the message maybe we're sending about our government when, you know, and I guess my question for you is, does the ends justify the means? When we look at the peaceful protests that have been outside the Capitol in Madison compared to what's been inside some of the legislative halls in Madison has been extremely different. And we look at the second vote, probably with little advance notice to one party. We look at a 2-hour advance notice on the budget repair bill in the Senate, and then we hear some of your comments about, well, this is going to be worked out, this is going to be worked out. The cynical side says that we haven't been shown that. And in business, the leader sets the tone. And in the leadership party, is that the tone you really want to be setting? And does it have to be that way? Can't we do it in a little more civilized manner? And as part of the leadership party, can't you say stop?
Well, let me say that the budget adjustment bill was passed in the manner it was because we had really felt that we exhausted our opportunities to get the 14 back and come to a conclusion of this budget adjustment bill with them there. It just wasn't going to happen. And we were given, they may never come back. It might be 2 months, it might be 3 months. And again, after the governor talked with us about his efforts to negotiate something, we're going to do this part, and then we're going to move on. And yeah, it came rather quickly. It was all legal. Otherwise,
I didn't ask if it was legal. I asked, Dan, Bryce's Prairie, you're a local guy. This just doesn't seem right to use some of these tactics when what would it have hurt to said, okay, we're going to put this out there for 24 hours. We're going to post a public notice. Whether that 14 is in the state is immaterial to what you're going to do. The tone that you're setting is dangerous. A 19-second vote in the assembly when 40% of the people didn't even know it was coming is a dangerous tone to set. We operate here in Holmen. It's not the way I'd like to think we operate here in western Wisconsin. It's certainly not the way the people on the streets of Madison have operated. And it's very scary that our leaders who should be setting the tone are operating in that fashion. And that's very sad. And to agree with Nita, I think it's very sad what's happening. And, we need more people, maybe like a friendly Narrison who stands up and says, that ain't right. It just isn't right. A good old farmer from Vernon County who says this isn't right. He understands right and wrong, whether it's legal or not. And I think that's my concern.
well, again, we tried everything we could to get them back. They weren't going to come back. And it's not irrelevant because we couldn't act without them on that whole bill. And we wanted them back. We wanted them. We wanted our friends back.
I don't want to belabor the point, Dan, but I think
I understand your point
a little bit here. We're kind of using they did it, so I'm going to rationalize my bad behavior because somebody else did something. It's what we talk on the kindergarten playground here. But as a leader, we set the tone.
Right.
And is that the tone that we want to set, that we're saying we're going to rush this through without a 24-hour notice? When you had the rights legally to do it, you had the votes to do what you did because you did it, could we have not said that we're going to do 24-hour notice to I guess, keep the people's faith in the process?
We're in a state that values education. The school board has valued it. I mean, we've worked hard, and it just isn't this board, it's the citizens. And we've had a great education in this state. And I'm in disbelief about what has happened in the last month. I never thought that Wisconsin education could be torn apart because somebody came into power, and because they had the power to do what they needed to do, they thought they needed to do, and they did it without the people being involved. I mean, when we dedicate a school here, we don't say it's from the school board. We say it's done because of the citizens that live here. It's not just us. It's not just the governor because he can do that. I was totally appalled by what happened in Washington, D.C. when the Democrats took over. I've never thought it should be all Democratic or all Republican because this country's in the middle. And what they did, I was appalled at. Now I look and go to Madison, and the Republicans are doing what I hated happening in Washington, D.C. because they could do it. Do it on the weekend. Do it on Friday night. Do it when people aren't around. That's not democracy. And of all the states, Wisconsin, and I really have trusted you. I thought you're had some common sense. You were in the middle. And to side in with them, not to what Tim said, this isn't right. We can't do it this way. I think that the Republicans need to come to the table and the Democrats need to come to the table, and you need to sit down and you need to say, I can't have everything. I can't have everything in my marriage or in my family or here or any place. I have to go to the table and say, okay, like I say, what can you give up? What can I give up? Where can we come? Do y'all have to do this so fast? I mean, and why do we do it to a certain group of people and we leave others out? That isn't how it works. Just because you're in charge doesn't mean you don't care about the people over here that are little and maybe don't get to say anything. You have to care about them. If we don't have education, no business is going to come here. People pick. They pick where they're going to live by the school. And if the school isn't doing their job, they're not going to move there. And this board is aware of that. We're aware of it every time we sit down here, every time we go to a meeting. I think the governor and the legislature needs to be aware of that too. You can put all the signs of people. They come here because of the true leader. Well, they may have power. They discern or they make the decision that you may have power, but you don't always have to use it, or as you have in Madison. We did that as a board. We knew that we could have waited for that budget repair bill to pass, and then we could have mandated to our teachers what the cuts were going to be or what decisions. We could have used the tools as you've described. But we knew it was much better for us to let them have input. And they took significant cuts, and they came out feeling victorious. And it made me cry to think that we had to do that. But that's the kind of people we're working with. And we feel like that has been just disregarded. And because you have the power to do those things, those bad people went away. You can do this or you're going to. The real leader would have said, enough is enough. Let's bring a representative group to the table and met in McDonald's in Beloit or Janesville or wherever for as often as you had to, or you could take the fast food. You would have continued to do that. But somewhere someone felt whatever agenda or reason, they felt like that was the day and they had to do that. And that to me just dismantles or it does away with any belief that there is true leadership here in Madison.
Well, again, I appreciate your comments, and we did the 3 weeks. We tried with no assurances that it would ever change. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you feel that way, but we were patient. We waited. We worked. The governor, our leadership, didn't happen.
I have a comment for you. Fiscally, this may fix Wisconsin in 1 year, but the damage, the tearing of our state and our future, our children, this is going to cost us more in the future than just balancing the budget on a Friday night.
Explain that to me. How?
You may have given us tools, but they're not tools we want. They are tools that are muscles.
Don't use
to railroad our employees. We don't want to do that, but you're taking away what our income that we can use for our students, which is our job here, which is everyone's job in the state of Wisconsin. They are our future. They're the ones who's going to be making these jobs, building these new jobs. We take away their choices, their brilliance now, hinder them. We have no future as a state.
Other states should look to us. They look to us for education. We're leaders in it, and we've been drugged down like we're the worst of the states.
No, you have not.
Well, that's how. I mean, I listen to the radio and people say, "Oh, those lazy teachers, they're not doing anything." I challenge you and anybody in Madison to come and sit in a first grade classroom or a fifth grade classroom. All those things, they're not lazy. And this board has the power with administration to do what they need to do, to non-renew, to make it so that people suggest they get another profession, which has happened. We can't discuss all that with everybody. It's confidential. But it happens. But it's very lazy. You got to be kidding me. When teachers are in the community, they belong to churches, they belong to Rotary, they belong to civic-minded groups. If every teacher or person connected to a school, Dan, stopped doing what they did, the place would fall apart. And when they retire, they're still out there doing stuff. You know, I mean, this state doesn't realize what they have. And I don't know if the governor does. Can you tell him that?
And the next time the Fab 14 go to Illinois and you guys want them to come back, don't have a taped telephone conversation saying you're going to trick them back.
I didn't. Anita, I didn't have that. I didn't.
I know, but the person in court did.
I didn't. And I wouldn't.
I would
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.